Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for being here and to say Happy Mother's Day to all of you in America. Um, I appreciate you being here, taking time away from your family, etc., and welcome. Be sure and download the Freebie for this evening's chat um, or live. It's on elderflowers and how to make cordial and liqueur out of it. And my elderflowers are out there, but they haven't turned white and opened their buds yet. So I can't actually go and make my cordial yet. Maybe at the end of the week or beginning of the weekend next week, I should be able to do that. But in the freebie is a link to Audrey's show, her channel, um, French Countryside Diary, and she has a beautiful piece on elderflower and how to do both cordials and liqueurs for you. So I hope that you enjoy that. It's been an interesting, let's see, oh boy, one of these days I'm going to figure this all out. It's been an interesting spring here. It absolutely pisses rain for hours on end and then glorious sunshine and rain again, and it's too wet to get out and do anything. So, of course, all of the weeds are growing great guns. It is absolutely amazing how many weeds I have. But I looked out the window this morning as I was drinking my coffee, and I saw lots of orange and purple and yellow flowers. I'm not sure what they are, but as soon as it gets a little drier out there, I will go outside and see what they are. I think some of them, the orange ones, may be Sucy, which the French call calendula, and I'm hoping that that's what they are because they'll be wonderfully medicinal if they are. Uh, I'm working on a piece about weather and about water and why people should or shouldn't build houses or create agricultural fields or throw good money after bad, actually. This spring, I went down into Bordeaux. Uh, there was a lot of people, a lot of traffic, a lot more than I expected to pick up a particular piece of furniture. And I was appalled, frankly, at what I saw alongside the road. Not only the devastation of the floods, but I guess for monetary reasons, for profit, people had planted new vineyards down on the flats along the river, and they will flood eventually, and they did flood this year. They were absolutely knee deep in water, which grapes don't like. I can imagine they lost that whole vineyard crops, plus all of the houses and the new houses that had been built down along the river's edge. Um, you don't do that in the West. You don't plant in an arroyo. You know that if there is a great rain, it's going to come flooding down that wash or that draw, and anything in the path of the water is going to be swept away and covered up with mud or killed or whatever. Um, if you build on a floodplain, same thing eventually is going to happen. You're going to have a 500-year flood or one every 2 years or whatever. But that's why the river bottom is so incredibly productive with crops, is because the soil is renewed when the floods come. But you shouldn't build your houses there. St. Genevieve, Missouri, back in French colonial times, was built down along the flats along the river, and a flood came, and I have actually seen on some of the furniture that survived that flood that they moved into the newly built town up on the bluff. You could see where the water 200 and some years ago had come and sat in that house. It had stained the armoire, and they just left the stain on it. They didn't move it. It was amazing to see, but it was a warning. You just don't do that. And again, I was just saddened and appalled to see how many people new housing developments and new agricultural land had been put in down along the floodplain. And this year, this spring, was devastating the floods, and it just wiped it all out. Didn't necessarily wash them out of the ground, but they were under water so long that the roots, they're not going to survive, I wouldn't think. Okay, let me see what we've got here. Again, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day to all of my American viewers. France doesn't celebrate Mother's Day until the last Sunday of May, unless it interferes with Pentecost weekend, and I'm not sure what the status is this year, but that's when French Mother's Day is. Those of you who have just come in, don't forget to download the freebie on elderflowers. Elderflowers make a wonderful medicinal cordial without alcohol, and they make an incredibly wonderful, soft bodied liqueur that takes about 6 months to mature. So if you were to put it in May or June, it would be ready for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and it would be absolutely delightful. It would be like spring in a bottle. Any questions in the chat? Sunday, May 31st, France's Mother's Day this year. Yes. And I don't think that's Memorial Day weekend in America because there's no Monday involved the day after. So obvious, or probably then Memorial Day would be the previous weekend. This last Friday was VE Day or Victory in Europe Day, and I hung my little French flags out in a garland on my door. And I didn't hear any hoopla in the square with trumpets or tubas or whatever. As far as a parade, there was nothing like that this year, but there was one last year. Yeah, I think it was the 80th anniversary last year of Victory in Europe Day. Any questions? I recognize some of the people in the chat. I may have missed this, Nosy Housefrau says, but are you going to grow veggies too? Yes, I will be growing some veggies. However, I need to create the bed that they go in, and my Deborah Shiro or whatever it's called in America, it would be called a Cub Cadet bushwhacker. Um, I need to go out with the machine that I have and mow down all of the nettles and turn them into kind of like a nettle soup to use as a fertilizer when I first put the bed in. It will be just absolutely excellent. Hi, of all of the 73 plants from the King's List, how many do you have? Well, I have sitting here ready to go out and plant when it's not so soggy I can actually get into the ground. I have a mulberry, a white mulberry, which was on the list. I have a bay laurel, which was on the list, and gooseberries and currants. I don't have any other plants that are on the list currently because frost is still possible. So those kinds of tender things will be going in later. But these particular plants that I just listed will be going into what I'm going to call a food forest against the east wall of the garden. And they will be a permanent fixture. And then once they get a little established, I can plant other smaller berries and vegetables and flowers underneath. 5/25 Memorial Day. Yes. It's one of those times if it's not the last Monday of the month, then and if since Sunday is the 31st, there's no Monday involved, so it would be the previous. You're correct. Good morning, everyone. It's good evening here, but good morning to you all in America, Florida, Ohio. Um, will I be sharing herb expertise? Yes. Um, currently, I only have on hand dried herbs. So, but some of those actually work better than fresh herbs for tincturing because dried herbs have lost the water and they will actually make a stronger tincture. Plus, I also do what's called I apologize, guys. I must be getting old. Um, when I make an oil maceration, I grind up my dry herbs with heavy strength, either Everclear or 80 proof vodka, let it sit overnight, and then I take that and put it in the oil maceration so that I benefit from the constituents that the oil will not extract, but the alcohol will. And it also helps preserve the oil actually better. My town, I don't think did May 8th. I kept listening to see if there was a parade or something going on in the square under the memorial, but I didn't see anything. Last year they did. It was the 80th anniversary. And yes, they did do a celebration last year. It was really quite nice, but I totally missed it because I was not looking for it. Snow must go on. That's correct. It's not Mother's Day in Europe here, not until the end of the month. Good evening from the Perigord and Amboise. I do not know if any of the houses sold that I showed you. Um, house sales are notoriously slow in France. I don't understand why. One thing I've noticed is that the real estate agents are not, they don't beat the bushes and they're not active about promoting, advertising. I don't know how to describe it. In Idaho, or in America, in Idaho, where I was, we had the MLS or the multiple listing service, and it seems I re- I seem to recall or recollect that real estate agents were, I mean, they were chomping at the bit to make sales, and so they networked and they advertised and they posted on social media and they just did all kinds of things to sell houses. I don't see that same type of um, go get them here. I don't see that. Houses eventually sell, but it seems that the ones that do sell, nobody knew that they were on the market. So I'm not really sure what's going on. But the five that I recommended or that I showed are not, and I really have to be careful what I say because I'm not a real estate agent. I didn't really show them. I didn't try to sell them. I just showed what was available on on the listings. And I tried to get ones that were um, different enough that one of them would appeal to somebody, so that it should be more appealing to everybody. Oh, it is Mother's Day in the Netherlands. Well, as an American, when you come to Europe and you go to Britain and you drive on the wrong side of the road, and then you come to France and you drive on the right side of the road, like we do in America, it makes so much more sense. But America is not the one that starts everything. So I'm glad to see that other people do things differently. UK Mother's Day in Europe or in the UK is 3 weeks before Easter. So the date moves that way every year. That's interesting. It's almost as if, why do we have a calendar if we can't set a date and mark it off, with hash marks as we go along? Um, it's so much easier to plan that way. But again, uh, you can see why America and Britain split. I mean, they do things differently. It's like they've been cut down the middle, and one half does one way and one half does the other. And they either don't understand or don't want to understand why the others do the way that they do. But I'm just glad in France we drive on the American side of the road, and that, yeah, I like that. So much easier. I'm planting zucchini, winter squash, and Marzano tomatoes. Also be growing a lot of flowers. Um, a winter squash, what type of winter squash? Something like a blue Hubbard or a acorn, or something more like a pumpkin. The exchange rate is making housing less approachable, in my opinion. I thought realtors were raising prices, but then realized it was the dollar to euro rate doing it. Yes, and that fluctuates amazingly. So in the almost 3 years since I've been here, I've been amazed at how much it went up and down. I had no idea Mother's Day is at a different time in France. Yes, it's the last Sunday of May, but unless Pentecost weekend, Sunday, falls on that day, and then it's changed. And I forget, I read whether it was before or after, I can't remember. But anyway, if Pentecost falls on the last Sunday of May, then Mother's Day changes. I promised you guys a video on the benefactor and one on the village, and you'll be pleased to know that both of those are in production. I'm not sure what day of the week they're going to go out this week, but at least one of them will go out. And I just seem to be the world's worst when it comes to editing videos or coming up with really pretty ways of presenting. I mean, you do a short and an intermediate and a wide, and you put your iPhone in the refrigerator, and then you open the door and you do, oh, phew, I'm working on that because I really enjoy it when I watch someone else's videos and they do it that way. So I am really trying to learn how to do that. I can take the footage, but sticking it together in an editing software and making it look pretty, then I'm someday I'm gonna be rich and famous, and then I can farm them out to an editor. But that hasn't happened yet. Have I been to the new restaurant in town? What is it like? Prices, seating, menu, etc. The owners are from Reunion, which is, I believe, an island in the Indian Ocean, I think. I don't think it's a Caribbean island. So their food is a little different. The spices that they use are a little different, but they are delicious. The prices are not bad, and their pastries and breads beat the bread store, the artisan bread store across the street. But there's plenty of traffic from 8:30 to 12:30, 6 days a week at the bread store across the street. They still go there, but then lots of people are actually stopping at Chez Haute, it's called, and buying their bread there. But their pastries look divine. You do a fantastic job on your videos. I enjoy them very much. Thank you. Um, I'm a lot better at speaking than I am at artistic stuff. but I enjoy. I mean, this little old lady loves to learn new tricks. I mean, uh, I like to be in the forefront and able to do new stuff. But to be honest with you, video editing is a pain in the wazoo. I mean, I hate that part of it. I love the filming. I love doing it. I love looking at it, but putting it together, that's hard. Uh, oh, I can't say your handle, lady. Yali Siro exotic fruits, something. Anyway, thank you. Have a blessed day yourself, and thank you for your blessing. I'm currently germinating veggie babies. I can't get here in France, including Thai basil, jalapeno, serrano, and chipotle peppers. You must live somewhere where the nights are 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I have no idea what that is centigrade at night, because if not, your peppers won't set fruit. They may flower, but the fruit won't set unless you have hotter nights. It's not hot enough where I live to grow those kind of peppers. Sweet Mama, it's a winter squash, like a Hubbard, but smaller, not a pumpkin. Oh, it sounds delicious. They have orange squash called Port Marion, which they're a squash pumpkin. I don't know whether they're a pumpkin or a squash. It's immaterial. They're delicious. And you don't have to, if you get them small enough, you don't have to cut the rind off. You can actually eat the rind, and they're a gorgeous orange. I really don't like the color orange. I hate to wear it, but I love to eat it. So I really like those. Okay, I would like to see more videos of a drive-through, maybe neighboring towns on your way to market, etc., just chatting to us along the way. Well, I have a confession to make. Um, when I went down to Bordeaux to pick up the marble-topped dresser that's still in the back of the car, by the way, I'm dickering to find a way for somebody to come help me unload it. Anyway, when I took that drive, uh, I was in the middle of traffic like I hadn't been in for 3 years, and I thought I was gonna die. I mean, I I don't know how to explain it, and I just prayed, "God, I don't want to die now, because if I do, in the middle of this traffic, going 70 kilometers an hour, I not only will kill myself, but I'm gonna hurt somebody else. Please don't let it happen." And I managed to make it. I mean, I was in the middle of between towns or whatever. There was absolutely nowhere to pull off. There were 5 lanes of traffic. It was absolutely insane. I will never go there or any way like that again if I'm driving. No way. So I am giving up my Kangoo. So I will not have the means to make drive along videos. However, we have a very good bus system here, and I am going to attempt to do, because I can go on the bus from here in Cunha to Busac and back, and I can also go from here to Garay, which is the prefecture town, and back. And both of those are beautiful drives. And when I have been on those drives myself, sometimes I am the only, and I mean only, one coming or going for 8 miles, 8 kilometers. I mean, I love living here because it's it's smack dab in the middle of France in the second least populated department, and I love the cows and the sheep. I'm not happy about cars and people. So, anyway, I'm not gonna have the Kangoo anymore to do that. But, when you make it through a trial and you come out the other end unscathed, I'm not gonna dip my toes in the water again with that. I'm gonna I'm gonna remember that I'm 77, and I'm just gonna take it easy. I started gardening when I retired 5 years ago. Last year, I planted too many zucchini. I couldn't keep up with them, and they became 20 inches long and 5 inches in diameter and were so tough. They became compost. Yes. I can remember people joking in Idaho about, don't leave your car windows open on Sunday, near a church, because if you do, somebody will dump their excess zucchini through the window, into your car. And the kind of zucchini they would have been dumping were just as you described, 20 inches long, 5 inches around, and hard as a rock. But they do make great compost. I don't have to buy dirt to plant my vegetables and flowers. I have good dirt in the backyard. However, I did buy 4 big bags of potting soil because I'm going to be planting, some, uh, patio pots. I bought 2 climbing strawberries, uh, vining climbing strawberries as opposed to the kind that run sideways on the ground. And so I have 2 obelisks and 2 big pots to plant those strawberries in. It was recommended that I plant my bay laurel tree, my small bay laurel tree. Um, my pretty little bay laurel. It's this high. It's not too high, 18 inches. To put that in a pot because uh, sometimes the cruise winter will be too cold for them, and I can move the pot into the garage or save it that way. It was also recommended to me that the lavender that I was able to get go into a pot instead because it is the type that just goes all over the place and runs riot. And I really don't have space for that big a run riot plant, but I want lavender. So I will have lavender in a pot and a bay laurel in a pot, 2 climbing strawberries, and I want to put a lemon balm, uh, Melissa, in a pot as well because it is being a mint family, it will become invasive as well. And I will have those near my back door so that I can enjoy them when I sit outside in the backyard, or I can take better care of them in the wintertime when it gets cold. Does France have a delivery service for groceries? Yes. As long as my order is $60 or more, it's free delivered from the Carrefour big supermarket in Busac. So, yes, that's not a problem. Market day in Busac is on Thursday mornings. There is a great uh, secondhand not flea market, secondhand Goodwill, Salvation Army kind of store in Busac that's also open on Thursday mornings. And one of these days, I thought I would take the bus in and go to the market and film in the market and film in the secondhand store to show you what's available. Um, because I'm sure there's really wonderful stuff there. Have my children found my YouTube channel? If they have, they haven't left a comment. None of them have commented, so I don't know. My oldest daughter and her 2 kids are planning to come to France next summer in May. Um, I would be a stop on the way because they would come to see all the Cinderella castles and stuff in the Loire Valley, which is okay with me. Maybe I can hitch a ride. But my kids would have told you that my middle name as they were growing up was Hard Hearted Hannah. But you know what? All 3 of them turned out great. All of the grandkids are great. Um, one's a football coach, one's a master welder. Um, what's the other one doing? One is going into law enforcement. I mean, the kids and the grandkids are turning out fine without me. And I really wasn't there when I remarried. My husband and I moved to Southern Illinois and then to Michigan and then to Alaska. So I really wasn't around when they were starting their families early, and I just wasn't there. So the kids and the grandkids really have turned out fine without me. So if they want to come visit me, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to put them up. I'm working on the guest room so that there will be somewhere for them to sleep. Um, but I really don't expect them to come. They weren't travelers before. Floating down the river on a raft is different than, getting in a plane and flying across an ocean. I really don't think many of them will do it, but that's okay. They're doing fine without me. They love me and I love them, and etc. When you took us through your neighborhood, there was a bakery empty. Have they sold the building? If not, can you share where we can view the listing? Thank you so much. The Okay, if I look out the window this way, which is west, the street is right outside the door, about 18 inches from the front door. Across the street, literally, and down one house is the what's called an artisan bread store. And this spring, for some reason, no, not this spring, last fall when the renovators were here, for some reason, the lady closed the shop and I thought she went out of business, but she only was gone for like a month. And so the apartment on the uh, next door on the other side of my wall, um, this is a townhouse, so at least one house wall is attached to the house next to it. So on that side, that apartment was vacant and they put the bread store in there. Somebody else ran it for the month that the other lady didn't have it. But she's back across the street with the bread store. Um, the other way, kitty corner, on the corner used to be a bank, and that house is still available directly across the street and between the bread store and the house across the street, the apartment across the street. That house was bought by an American. I have no idea who it is. I haven't seen whoever they are yet. I have seen workers that they have hired to come in and do work on the inside of the property several times in the last 6 months. But to my knowledge, the American who owns it has not come to claim or to move in or whatever. So we'll just have to see. If you would like to see more available, my take on what's available in the local area for sales, I would be happy to do another video like I did. But you can save, if you're really interested, my advice would be to type in French hyphen property, all one word, .com, and a website will come up that I consider to be similar to multiple listing service in America. You can type in as search terms what department or town you want to look at. You can type in how much you're willing to spend, high and low. You can type in other keywords like for me, it was stone or tile floor, garden space. I think that was it. That was what I was concerned about, a garden space and a tile or uh, stone floor, because I wanted a fireplace that was usable, because I intended to either cook on Dutch ovens in the fireplace with regular fire or install a wood cook stove, a cuisinière they call them. Uh, and so it was important to me as a French colonial reenactor, we always had to have buckets of water near a fire because our petticoats could catch on fire from sparks. And I did not want myself to go up in flames or the floor, a wooden floor, to be uh, the possibility of catching on fire. So it had to be a stone or a tomette. Well, I have a stone floor. I would love to have a tomette floor because then it would be even, but I don't have that yet. I intend someday to get one. Uh, so mine was my maximum price was 50,000 euros. I didn't care where it was because at the time I didn't know anything about France, and had to have a stone floor and a garden space. And this particular property came up every time I looked. Other properties came up, and I looked at them, and some of them were absolutely gorgeous, in much better shape than this one, but of course, much more money too, closer to the 50,000. I ended up paying 23,000 euros plus fees, so basically 29,000 by the time it was all rolled up. But you can't buy 170 square meters, which is 1,800 and some square feet, 3 floors, a garage and a workshop, and a 632 square meter, which is almost a fifth of an acre garden for $29,000 in America. No way. So anyway, I th I think I made out like a bandit, okay? Oh, also look at Green Acres. Yes, and Green Acres is a partner with French Connections HCB too. So, that would work too. But I found my house through french-property.com. I was looking there the other day, and there's some marvelous, uh, properties for very little money. Uh, if you're younger than 77 like I am, if you're in your 40s or 50s, or even early 60s, and you're still handy with whatever, do not be afraid of cheap prices and do it yourself. Just be aware that you'll have lots of hoops to go through and things will take longer than you expected and it will cost you more than you wanted to pay. But it is doable, and the faster you do it, the better off you'll be. Yeah, it's too cold. And in France, or in here in the cruise, I was actually looking at a topo map yesterday, and uh, the village of Clunit sits in. If you're familiar with Boise at all, there's the Boise River, which is the flat, and then you have the two benches, and then you have the upper bench, our river floodplains from way back when in the Ice Age or whatever. Anyway, Clunit sits on what I would call the first bench, and then to the west, the mountains rise. To the east, the mountains rise. So I'm in a small river valley. I don't think that I would ever have to be concerned about floodwater from the Varot, which is the name of the river, which is just that way a little ways. Um, uh, there's not enough water in it, and there's not enough high hills behind it to get a headwater that would raise high enough to get my house. Uh, so I'm not worried about flooding where I'm at, but there are areas around here that would have to be concerned about flooding. Um, the rolling hills they are so old and so lived in, and the archaeology is amazing. That's another video I'm working on about the archaeology in the area. It goes way back to Roman times and before, and I don't know how to describe the feeling that you get knowing that um, people have lived continuously on this land where I'm at, not necessarily my house, but in this valley, in this department for thousands, literally thousands of years. Now, it's not that they didn't do that in America too, because the Native Americans were all over the place, but they were not as intensely, and particularly in the Intermountain West, where I was from in Idaho, the without agricultural waterworks, there was really no way to survive on that land unless you lived right near a water source. It was too high and too dry. That's not the case here. Uh, the land is very fertile. Depending upon where you are, it's very thin. If there's granite batholith below, and there's a lot of granite around here and under where I'm at. Um, but there's a feeling that you get walking in the village or driving in your car from village to village and realizing as you look out over the fields and the animals and the hedgerows and the gigantic trees, uh, almost like redwoods in some of them, but not they're not redwoods, but they have that forest primeval feeling, and it just does something to you when you realize uh, that people have been here that long and lived here. And the archaeology in this area right around where I'm at, again, goes way back before Roman times. And a lot of the men in this area went off to fight Julius Caesar in 52 BC at the Battle of Alesia. 10,000 of them, and they didn't come home, not a cotton picking one of them. They were all shipped off as slaves. Each Roman soldier got to claim one slave, and when the Roman soldier left to go back home, the slave went with him. So it was a devastating. Okay, let's see. You are so smart about it. I noticed that you looked at the roof. Well, to be honest with you, the only reason that I looked at the roof, one of the main reasons that I looked at the roof, was because I'm too old and too decrepit, and I hate ladders. I couldn't have fixed it myself if there was a problem, and I didn't have enough money to hire a roofer. So the roof had to be, that was the other thing I looked at. I didn't put it in the keywords, but I was looking to make sure the roof was straight, no missing tiles, and in the first floor small bedroom that is now the bathroom, I could see that there had been a leak at one time, but the floor above that had completely been renovated and it was pristine as far as the sheetrock and the paint and the plaster. There was no evidence of any more um, leaking. So I wasn't worried about the roof or the rooms or etc. I'll be honest with you though, I looked at out my bedroom window the other day and I could see plants growing out of above me to the roof, above me to the left, where the roof and the guttering is. I could see plants growing. They're not ivy, but they're not, they shouldn't be there. And on the inside of my bedroom in the corner where the wall abuts against the neighbor's house wall, uh, the even though the renovators replastered and repainted that wall and fixed the crack that was there, I noticed that it's got staining on it again. So there's obviously something, it's not bad, but it's enough to cause staining on the wall. So that's going to have to be addressed. But it's not a life or death or the wall's going to fall down situation or anything like that. So I'm not worried about it. I'll just make sure in the meantime that the furniture is not up against the wall so it doesn't draw moisture. And that is on my to-do list eventually. But as long as your roof doesn't leak and you can lock the front door, you can be pretty much safe regardless of where you're at, particularly in rural France. Most people don't bother you. They don't try to get in your house. There's the crime rate, the break-ins. We just don't have that. It's just not here. Now, in Garay, or which is 27 kilometers away, or in Limoges, or in Montluçon, or Clermont-Ferrand, yes, you would have to worry about those sort of things. Lyon and the bigger cities, you do have to worry about that, but not here. Are there senior citizen benefits like reduced bus fare or taxes? There is not reduced bus fare. There is if you're under 28, believe it or not, because I assume they're hoping you're going to go to school. And there, all of the colleges or lycees, agricultural places where kids go to school, are on bus routes, and they would prefer that you took the bus as opposed to bring your car. So they get a cut rate, but if you buy by the week or the month or the year, $450 would buy you a bus pass for a year, and it would be it's €2.30, 2.3 euros to go from here to Busak. I think the same to Gray and the same on the way back. So roughly a €5 round trip. That's not bad. Um, and I wouldn't do it that often, maybe once or twice a month at the most, maybe sometimes not even in a month. For bus rides and shopping, do you have a rolling shopping bag cart or do you need one? If so, please add what you need to your Amazon list. I will. Thank you. Um, I was going to take my walker and I was going to look and see if there was some sort of hanging basket or a hanging baggy thing with Velcro straps or something that I could attach to the front of the walker because if I have my market bag, my pretty French woven not rattan, woven grass bag with leather handles. If I take that with me, that can sit in my walker as I walk. And if there were some sort of hangy thing that went on the front of the walker so it did not interfere with my feet as I walked and pushed the walker, I think that would be the most benefit to me. Uh, and I wouldn't be because I can have the groceries delivered. I really wouldn't be going and bringing back 4 or 5 sacks worth of groceries. If I go and go to the secondhand shop and find something that I want, I can just make sure that I don't have so much that I can't lug it back on the walker. Um, but I will look into that. Thank you. It seems like the land would be depleted after millennia of growing, but it seems to keep being renewed, which is such a blessing. One of the things that I noticed when I was doing French colonial reenacting, because I was studying anthropology and art history and history, I read everything I could get my hands on, all of the site reports. If I was going to go reenact at a particular fort, I would do archaeological research on how the people and what they found and all of that stuff in that particular fort. And one of the things that the archaeological literature talked about was the fact that when you go to a British site, a British fort, and you dig down in a British fort soil layer, you have a different color than you do in a French fort soil layer. And what it came down to was the fact that the French renewed they would not only whitewashed their walls or uh, painted or whatever. The British didn't. They just put up wood and let it weather away. The French used some sort of agricultural produce like manure or whatever in their kitchen gardens because you can see it when you slice down through the layers. So the French have always done that. I don't know whether the Brits have or not, or they weren't in colonial times anyway in America, where I was at in mid-America. Uh, but you can see that in the soil when you cut a slice archaeologically and see what's in the slices. It's very apparent that the French were doing something different than the Brits. France has been people were living longer in the French countryside than they were across the channel in the British side. There was a lot of back and forth, but the French have always uh, been doing that. If you look at the beautiful Duke of Berry's Book of Hours, where it shows all of the peasants out plowing in the field and working in the orchard and doing all the things that they're doing, the serfs out in the agricultural land doing it, they are actually hauling manure and grass and other stuff and layering it and plowing it up. And it even shows in that exquisite book of Illumination, it shows the peasants doing that. So that says that that was the practice of the day. Uh, it was that type of renewal and specific plants that Charlemagne was trying to, uh, in his capitular, was trying to make everybody who was anybody produce land, uh, husbandry in that fashion, because they knew back in 18, I mean 18, 812. Okay, they knew back in 812 when the capitular was basically whatever. They knew then that there were certain ways to do things that it resulted in better yields, etc. That certain plants, if you had all of these plants and they worked together in a community, things were better. So that's sort of thing they've known for 2,000 years. I mean, a long time. They were evidently doing that. Uh, when you go back through the layers here in France, they were doing that back in the Gaulish times, or the Gaulois, the Gaul times, and the Celts. So they were doing it then too. But it depends upon what your ground is like. If it's granite, or if it's andesite, or if it's clay, you still have to worry about those things, because they determine what you can actually do. But depending upon what your soil is like and how deep it is, there are ways to make it better. Am I doing any knitting or embroidery? I ordered some yarn on in America and had my daughter ship it to me because I couldn't find what I wanted here, believe it or not. So I'll be making another shawl similar to this one, different color but similar. Mainly because that's the only stitch I know how to do, and I'm not really a crocheter or a knitter. Um, I'm a better embroiderer than I am a knitter or a crocheter, but I do like to make a shawl or whatever. I do have a beautiful Deerfield embroidery piece that I will be working on, that I want to start uh, when I go to the ladies embroidery guild that they have here in this city or in the village on Mondays. But I haven't gone yet, and I haven't actually. I have the thread, I have the fabric, I have the pattern. I just haven't put it together and managed to make it two doors down to the meeting on Monday. Monday comes and I'm busy doing something else, and it just goes right out the door. But it's on the list. French farmers rotate crops as France has strict laws to prevent depletion of minerals in the soil. France is a very proactive to keep their food healthy. Yes, they are. However, y'all, if you're a French farmer, you can still spray Roundup. And they do it. When I was driving by in the last 3 years, I used to live in Kindy, Michigan, at the tip of the thumb of Michigan, and across the street was a farmer's co-op, and next door to that was a 1 square mile field that rotated between corn, soybeans, and winter wheat. And 3 times a year, or twice a year minimum, they sprayed Roundup and started over with a new crop. And then when that crop came off, the Roundup machine was right behind the harvester, spraying Roundup again. Ugh. So I know what that color looks like. And I drove past a couple of fields here in Cruz, and I almost ran off the road. I could not believe that the French were spraying Roundup. But you can't go in, I can't, my neighbor can't go in and buy Roundup. If the neighbor is a farmer or a rancher, they can go buy Roundup and use it. I hate that. I'm not going to make any difference in that, but ugh, I hate that. The United States has a homicide rate that's about 6 to 7 times higher than most Western European countries. Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons for that is because uh, too many people are doing this or scrolling on a phone. They don't have anything going on up here. They don't have anything in their heart that they're, excited about or want to be involved in. They're just sort of existing, and when you are a lumpity bump of a vegetable type of, no dreams, no goals, no wishes, no you pretty s I mean, it's a self-defeating thing. You're gonna end up anyway, I gotta be careful what I say. You must have a dream. You must have goals. You must have plans. It's those things in your life that keep you going when the times get tough. If you don't have that, the tough times are gonna do you in. I don't care if you're rich or poor. I don't care whether you're young or old. I don't care whether you do drugs or not, or smoke or drink, or I don't care. If you don't have goals and dreams and something that turns you on and that you want to get up in the morning for, why are you living? What makes you want to live? In France, not everybody is as the way I wish they would be, what I'm talking about, but the majority, I mean, when it gets 12 o'clock, the traffic ceases. You can hear if the traffic going by my door is 6 o'clock on Sunday night, between 6 and 7. So people are rushing home to get to dinner, but they're done with their work. There was very little traffic today. There was more traffic yesterday. But when there's a noon hour in France, from roughly from 12:15 to 12:30 to 2 o'clock roughly, the entire country shuts down. They are either in a cafe or they are at home or they're in a lay-by with a picnic basket, and they are stopping to eat as if they were at a table. They are not forking it in as they're going through the drive-through on the way to the bank, etc. They don't live that way. They're a lot healthier because of that. They don't have they don't have the pressure and the um, and I don't care whether you're a bricklayer or a cattle feeder or the bakery owner. When it's 12:30, you shut your door and that's it. You're done till 2 o'clock. The doors in town, the doors. I don't care what town you're in. You cannot do like in America, where you can go and do business during the noon hour. Can't do that. Doesn't happen here. Everybody takes a lunch hour. The school, the government, the stores, everybody. That's good for you. It's not good to eat on the run. You are much better off sitting down. I don't care if all you have is a bowl of lentil soup. You're better off sitting down and enjoying that meal and letting your food digest in your gut so that you don't end up with leaky gut and stress and all of the stuff. I mean, I could name all kinds of chemical names, etc. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Not living that way encourages inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of absolutely everything. It's like the first domino to fall, and it will take everything in the line with it. So you have to work on that first. And sitting down and enjoying a meal, regardless of what it is, sitting down and enjoying, taking that time to let your gut and your everything work. That is almost health number one as far as I'm concerned. Do I think I lived in France in a previous life? I don't know if I believe in previous lives, but my maternal grandfather was actually born in, it's now Italy, and it was Italy when he was born there. But before 1862, it was France. They spoke French. The village where my grandfather came from, they still speak French, but they also have to speak Italian because it's now Italy. But we lived with my grandmother and grandfather until I was 12, and so I remember sitting and watching him eat and what he did when he ate and what he actually ate and why he did the things that he did, who his friends were. Um, knowing France now and being around French people now, he was living a French life. He slowed down. He didn't rush. He was very thorough in what he did. When he died, um, they had so many people come to the funeral that they had to move the funeral to this college or the school gymnasium because it couldn't contain everybody. And myself and my 32 cousins who were there, um, the old men who came to the funeral would, I think they lined us all up and told us all that he was the greatest man they'd ever known, that there was nobody finer than a little Joe. His name was Joseph Mary Blanc. For years, we all thought his name was Joseph Murray, Murray. No, it was French. It was Joseph hyphen Mary. Many, 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 many French men are named something plus Mary or Mary Joseph or it's amazing. Anyway, he was very French. And being a French colonial reenactor, I fell in love with all things French. And I think um, that part of me probably lived in a previous life, but I really don't believe in reincarnation or any of that. But I'll tell you, I love being here. I love it here. That short that I did about sitting down and drink, it is almost spiritual. It is medicinal. It is mind calming. It's like being in love. And when you feel that first glow and I mean, that feeling is what you get when you sit down in the morning and drink a hot beverage in the sunshine. Think about all of the movies that you've seen where people with money were sitting out on a terrace in the morning drinking a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. The husband may or may not be reading the paper, but he wasn't looking at the Financial Times. He was just kind of like flipping through the paper. The wife was sitting there with her croissant or her cup of tea or coffee or her slice of toast with jam on it. And they were just they were just sitting there in the sunshine, drinking and slowly eating. That ritual, that whatever it is, uh, I felt it the first day that I went up and did that in the bedroom. I mean, I've had the bedroom since I've been here, but I haven't really had access to that window until recently. And the first time that I did it, I can't describe to you the feeling that it was like medicine. It was like wine. It was like love. I mean, it was just peace. It was, I don't know how to describe it. But when I did it that first time, and I was doing the video at the same time, and I was thinking as I was doing the video what I was feeling and how it was literally physically and mentally making me feel to do that. And if I could sell the feeling and bottle it, I'd be rich because I mean, it was amazing. I cannot recommend that practice, even if you can only do it for 5 minutes. Sit in the sunshine in the morning and let the sun flood your face and drink a beverage slowly. Take as long as you can. It not only sets your cortisol level so that it shuts off, so that it's not running riot, which then allows your melatonin in the evening to work correctly so you sleep better. I mean, and it starts in the morning. Your good sleep the coming night starts in the morning when you're sitting there drinking your beverage in the sunshine. I prescribe y'all. Y'all go do that. You try it and you come back and you let me know how you felt. Take the time to mentally walk through your mind and your body and your heart while you're doing it. And come back and tell me if you didn't get the same thing from it that I get it, that I did, because I think you will. I think you'll discover that. Yeah, Mary in one's name is to honor the Virgin Mary. Yes, I totally agree, it is. But it was so strange. My grandfather was not Catholic. He left home at 13, walking across the plains of America to San Francisco, and he never went back home. And he told us that he would never darken the door of a church, Catholic or otherwise, to marry or bury any of his children or family. He disliked the Catholic Church with a purple passion. And he said it was because of what the nuns and the priests had done in Catholic school. And he ran away from home at 13, so it had to have been pretty hellacious. Anyway, he never did. He never, ever darkened a church door of any persuasion, regardless of who was being married or who was being buried. He didn't do it. He was a man of his word. And I almost hesitate to say that living in Catholic France, and you can hear the church bells, the Angelus going off behind me right now because it's 7:05 plus. Um, anyway, yes, resets your circadian rhythm. Cortisol is part of that. It's a hormone that gets reset in your circadian rhythm. And if you don't set it in the morning, it will keep you up at night. It will not allow your melatonin to work properly when it comes time to go to bed, get to go to sleep. Well said, Dr. Carolyn. You're welcome. Uh, seriously, you guys, just try it once. Just take 5 minutes if that's all you've got. Sit in the morning with the sun on your face and drink your beverage. No sound, no other than bird song if you manage to get it, and just see what happens. I would really like to know how you felt and what you do. Well, listen, it is 7:07, which means we've been going for an hour, and I just want to thank you all for showing up. Um, Jean Marie means God is gracious, beloved, star of the sea. Beautiful. I knew John was God's gracious gift, or God is gracious, and Mary means beloved. That you could be, you could go a long ways and not get named a better name. I mean that's a beautiful name. Anyway, thank you, you all. I'm so glad to have you here, and happy Mother's Day to all of you. Um, I had a great day. I got a lot of work done today, and anyway, thank you guys. Love you. A biento. Straight.